Hello, welcome to a new oXygen XML webinar. My name is George Bina, and I invited my colleague Sorin Carbonaru to discuss today about multimedia support in oXygen. This is our second webinar in 2017. We already had a previous webinar last week, and you can find that on our events page on the website. Under past events, you can find that the unit testing XSLT with XPEC and oXygen webinar, and you can find the recording of that. Before we start, here it is some useful information. The most frequent question that we have is whether the webinar is recorded or not, and the answer is yes, the webinar will be recorded. As you've seen, we recorded and made available also the previous webinar, so the same will happen to this one. The recording will be made available on the event page and also on our YouTube channel. So if you look for the oXygen XML channel on YouTube, you will find all oXygen XML related videos showing different small presentations and also recorded sessions at conferences and webinars. Please note that you can ask questions at any time. You don't need to wait until the end. At the end, we will have a dedicated space for questions, where we'll go through all the questions you asked also during the webinar and provide answers to all of them. If you use Twitter, you can also ask questions that way, marking them with either with the hashtag oXygenXML or addressing them to our oXygen XML account. So we'll monitor also this channel. I have also Alex with me. So Alex presented the last webinar, so he will also answer questions together with me as we go, or also at the end. So without further ado, I will allow Sorin to show you what he prepared for today's webinar. So let me make Sorin the presenter. Hi, Sorin.
Hello, George. Thank you. Hello, everyone, and thank you for attending this webinar. I'm Sorin Carbonaru, and I'm glad to be part of the team that develops oXygen XML editor. I'm also glad to have you today watching this webinar, and I hope that you will find it interesting and you will find it helpful. Well, from my point of view, I believe that it's pretty much meaningless to try to persuade you of the importance of multimedia in today's society. We are surrounded by multimedia, we are surrounded by videos and music, sounds, animations, and all kinds of things like that. And actually we have been surrounded for a few decades by multimedia, so you probably already feel and you already know the importance of this. So I think we should jump into the cold waters and start the presentation. Let me present you the outline of this webinar. We will start by taking a look at the audio and the video support in oXygen's author mode and the insert media action that you can use for that. We will also have a very short look at animations, SVG animations, and interactive SVG drawings. Then we'll discuss about the multimedia form controls, which lay the foundation for the audio and the video and the animations and the interactions in SVG. And then we will end the webinar with image maps, which I hope you'll find interesting. So let's begin with the audio and video support. Starting from oXygen 18.1, we have created the insert media action in DITA that can be used for easily adding video and audio content in your documents, both local resources and remote resources. And in 19.0, that is is planned to be released in probably less than a month or so. You will also have available the insert media action in DocBook and in XHTML. Besides inserting video and audio content, let's say from your computer, you can also quickly embed video clips from video hosting websites such as YouTube or Vimeo, and you can do that in DITA. The media objects that you insert can be played both in the author mode while you write your content, and then in all HTML5 based outputs such as WebHelp systems. So enough with talking, let's get into action, and let me show you something in oXygen. I have a data map with a few topics about the outer space, and intentionally I didn't add any multimedia content, no audio, no video, because we will do this together. I have one topic about Neil Armstrong, the first man to have ever walked on the surface of the moon, and we probably all know his famous words spoken when he took the first step on the moon. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. And I believe, and I added here a comment to remind me, that it would be really great to have the actual recording of Neil Armstrong's voice, to hear his words spoken on that day when he took that first step. So what we can do to insert the recording in our topic is, for example, to use the insert media action, which will display the insert media dialog box. Here we can choose between referencing the resource, in our case the audio file, directly using a URL, the URL, or being in the DITA framework, we can choose to reference it indirectly by using keys. Then we can choose the type of the resource. Well, actually, the type will be automatically selected when we browse and choose the resource. And also here at the bottom we can specify the dimensions of the players, the audio player, the video player. So we can browse for the MP3 file with those famous words, and as you probably have seen, the dialog box reconfigured and the audio radio button has been selected automatically. And now when I click insert, I get this audio player in the author mode, and then if I click play, we will hear those words spoken by Neil Armstrong.
That's one giant leap for mankind.
Cool, isn't it? Yeah, I think it's nice. Moving on, I said that one solution for inserting audio content would be to use insert media. You can also do the same thing by dragging and dropping the resource from the project view, for example, just like that, which is um, uh, more easy, is easier. Okay, and in the movies topic, I have two sections where I want to add some video content. I have here a section talking about, the deepness, the vastness, and the beauty of the outer space. And yeah, I know we don't see anything beautiful here, but just bear with me a few seconds. And here at the bottom we have another section talking about a satellite's flight over Pluto, and it's talking about Pluto's icy mountains and plains. So again, this would be a great place to see the photos taken by the satellite. Again, we can do that by placing the cursor where we want to insert the content, the video content, and then we browse for the file that contains that content. Again, the dialog was reconfigured, and now that I inserted the video, we get this video player in the author mode, and we can play it. We can see some shining particles there. Let's call them stars, which look nice. And here at the bottom, I said that it would be great to see images taken by the satellite, and NASA has a video on YouTube with the mountains and the plains of Pluto, and in order to embed YouTube, let's say, or maybe a Vimeo video clip in the author mode, we have to copy the embed code provided by YouTube in our case, then switch back to oXygen, invoke the insert media action, and then in the URL text field, input field, we paste the embed code that we have copied from YouTube, and again the dialog extracted, knew how to extract the URL, the dimensions, the type was selected as iframe, and when I insert this, I get the embedded video in oXygen, and it plays just nice and without any problems. Now, if I published the actual the current form of the document in, let's say, WebHelp, I wouldn't be able to make it full screen. For doing that, we need to add a parameter named allow full screen, which I will copy from here. And we don't have to provide a value for the parameter. And this is just one parameter that we can add. Every parameter that we add here will be translated as an attribute of the video element in the HTML output. Now, if we run a WebHelp transformation, which will take only a few seconds, we will see that the resources, the local resources, were copied in the output folder, and we can play them in the browser. So here we have the audio player with Armstrong's words, and it plays just as expected. And this is the local video. Again, it plays without any problems. We can make it full screen, and we can see the shining, let's call them stars again. And the YouTube video, no problems with playing it, and we can make it full screen, no problems with doing that either. So everything works just fine, just as expected, and that's great. Okay, let's go back to the presentation. The second thing that the second major point in today's presentation is about animations, SVG animations, and interactive SVG drawings. In the other page of oXygen, you can render animated SVGs, and if the SVG drawings have interaction, then you can actually interact with the drawing. And again, let's move to oXygen because I have a sample here that we can use. In this topic, I have a very, very basic structure of a rocket drawn using SVG. And when you hover over certain areas, certain modules of the rocket, you can see that those areas get highlighted. And if you wait for a few hundred milliseconds, then you can see what exactly those modules are. I said that we can render animations and that you can interact with the SVG. So if I click on this rocket in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, then we have a liftoff. We have the animation, and we triggered the animation by clicking on the rocket, by interacting with the SVG drawing. Again, in the output, the browser is capable of doing the same thing. We get the tooltip, we get the animation, we get everything that we have seen in the other mode. I promise you that we will also take a look under the hood and discuss for a while about the multimedia form controls. Form controls are components such as buttons, input fields, text areas, combo boxes, maybe audio, video players, browsers. And in oXygen, you can get these by using CSS functions. And we have three CSS functions that can be used for rendering what we have previously seen. And these three pillars sustaining the multimedia support that we have seen until now are called, and I think the names are very intuitive, I'm sure of it, are called Oxy Audio, Oxy Video, and Oxy Browser. Now, when I said three pillars, you have maybe thought, oh no, he's gonna show us the same old temple with three pillars as we have seen in a lot of places, something like this. But I think this is overused and a little bit boring. It's nothing very special about it, as much as I like ancient temples, ancient buildings, artifacts, and so on. So no, I won't say too much here, because I have something better, something more interesting, and bam, this is what I've been talking about, what I talked about, and I think it looks great, a lot more better than the old three-pillar temple. Okay, now let's get back to serious stuff. Okay, not so serious when we see Uncle Sam here, but still, anyone can use these three form controls in their XML documents, of course, with associated CSS style sheets, including you. And I'm going to show you how you can do that. And maybe if you want to, you can do it. And if you can do it in the same time. And let me find. Oh, okay, I don't have to find anything. All we need is an XML document and a CSS document, and we will choose some random arbitrary structure, XML structure, arbitrary names. Let's say that the root of our document is called Multimedia, and here we have a video element, and we want to reference our local particles MP4 file. Let's also provide width, let's say 400 pixels, and a height of 200 pixels. I think that's okay. And in the CSS, if we want to render the video player for the element that we have just written in the XML, we have to write something like this. So we say that before the video element, we want our content to be an oxy video, and we have a template here that we can use. Okay, and I want to make the code a little bit more beautiful. Okay. The three arguments of the video CSS function, as you can see, are href, width, and height. The href will be an absolute URL obtained from the Oxy base URI, and the value of the href attribute, which is a relative URL. And we will also collect the values of the width and height attributes and parse them as CSS length. Now, if we go back to our XML document and associate the untitled CSS file, I know untitled is not a good name, but this is just a demo, so I can do that. Now, if we switch, I think I have a wrong path. Okay. This never happened during the rehearsal, but nobody believes me, I know. Okay. Is this the one? Okay, I found it. Voila, we get the media player and it plays the video. And in a similar way, you can create video players or a browser that renders SVG animations, and that can be used for interaction. Here I have some samples of XML and CSS, how you can write the XML and the CSS so you can get the final expected results. And talking about the third one, the browser form control, it will get better in 19.0. And I will show you how exactly it will be better than the previous version. I have here another small sample of a travel guide. Okay, a few words. Before 19.0, you couldn't alter, you couldn't make changes in the current document from an Oxy browser. Now you can do that. So let's say from a JavaScript, you can modify something in the document, or you can add, you can remove, I don't know. In this particular example, we have very simple travel guide with one point of interest. And let's think about the following scenario. We had someone writing a complete travel guide, and he had a lot of points of interest to write about. And by mistake, he copied the address of another point of interest in the one that we have in front of us. So this is a wrong address, and we have to provide the correct one. If we look in the attributes table, we see that the address element has actually two attributes, the latitude and the longitude. So if we want to provide the correct values, then we probably have to go in the web browser and search for this location and find out the coordinates and find out the address, the name of the street or something like that. But in 19.0, you will be able to do that from oXygen without any kind of, I don't know, leaving oXygen, going to the web browser and start surfing the internet. Here we have a button that will display an Oxy browser which loads Google Maps. And here we have a pin on the wrong address. And if we want to provide the correct one, what we have to do is go to that location and right-click. And I don't know, in case you haven't missed this, the address from here changed from this to this. In the same time, and I have to show you the attributes view, the latitude and longitude also change, as you can see now. So this is an improvement that oXygen 19.0 will bring in April when it will be launched. The fact that from such a form control, a browser, you can perform changes in the current document. Let's go back to the slides. And our last major point in this webinar will be about image maps. Well, one of the main points with image maps is that you can see the big picture of something and then easily access the modules of that something. For example, if you have one image file with a big image of, I don't know, maybe a complex mechanism, then you can create various areas on that single image and then add hyperlinks on those areas, so you don't have to split the image in separate image files. And you can do that in oXygen using our image map editor, which has been introduced in 18. And you we haven't made a webinar about that, so this is the time to talk about the image map editor. It is available in DITA, in DocBook, in TEI, and in XHTML, and you can publish image maps to, let's say, WebHelp or XHTML. We have thought about just a few use cases. As I said earlier, you can use image maps for drawing areas over a complex mechanism, such as this gear pump that we also have in our samples project. And then in the final result, let's say with the WebHelp output, you can click on specific parts of the gear pump and you can access information about what it does, how it works, what problems are usually found with that part. Or maybe you can use image maps for user interface, for the user interface of an application. Maybe you have a complex dialogue with a lot of options, and you want to read information about each option. You don't want to scroll the entire HTML file to find the section talking about a certain option. You can just click on it and the browser will take you to the corresponding section by using image maps. Or another use case would be if you have a step-by-step process like this one, where you don't have a lot of information. So the process is install the Eclipse IDE, then configure Maven, and then create a Java project if you want to use the oXygen SDK. But this does not say a lot. You need more information, right? Then you could use image maps to click on each of the steps and then get full information, the entire procedure that you have to take to install Eclipse, to configure Maven, or to create a Java project. Let's move again to oXygen, because I have another sample to show to you. Here I have a topic about the DITA Maps Manager toolbar, and I have already created a small sample. What I wanted to do is to link the topics that talk about opening a map or performing a validation on the current map. I wanted to link them to the buttons here in this image. What you have to do to create these areas, and I will show you in just now, is to insert the image that you want to use for your map, and then invoke the image map editor. The dialog has a toolbar up here that allows you to draw all kinds of shapes, and you can duplicate them, you can delete them, you can undo or redo certain steps. You can show these numbers here for each shape, or if you have overlapping shapes, then you can choose which one should be brought forward or maybe sent to back. And you can also choose some color schemes for the text and the areas, the lines here. You can zoom in and out, and one of the most important things here, you can provide the target of that specific area, and you can provide the type. So let's do that for the configure transformation scenario action. We will create a rectangle over the button, and then we will create a cross-reference to the topic that discusses about how to configure a transformation. Okay, so we have created a new shape in our map, and another thing that I want to show you is found in the DITA map validate topic. Here in the first example, when we will click on the toolbar buttons, we will be redirected to to other topics. In the second example, which is taken from our user guide, where we have documented the DITA map completeness check dialog box, I have created areas over the options, some of the options, and in the output, when you click on these areas, you will be taken to the specific area, specific sections from down here that talk about those options and what they represent, how they work, and so on. Okay, it's time to publish this DITA map. Again, it will take a few seconds, and in the published output, we will see the behavior that I've explained to you. Okay, in a second now. So here we have the WebHelp output, and here when we hover over the buttons that have areas with hyperlinks drawn over them, we get the specific mouse cursor, and I clicked it, and I got to the configure transformations topic. Here we get to the open drop-down menu topic, and here to the topic explaining the DITA map validation and completeness check. And as I said, if you click on specific options, you get to the section that documents that option, where you can find more information about how it works, what it represents. Okay, so hoping that I didn't forget anything that I wanted to tell you, I want to thank you for having patience and attending this webinar. I hope you found it helpful and interesting, and now if you have any questions, we will be glad to answer them. So thank you. George?
So one question was, how can I find the CSS for that rocket example? Which was actually an SVG.
An SVG, yes, which has the CSS inside, is something that I wrote, and I think the samples will be available online. So you will be able to download them and get them if you want to.
So follow-up question, when is oXygen 19 coming? So
the beginning of April?
Yeah, so we plan that to be available in April, and next week you will have the chance to test the beta of oXygen 19, which will be announced publicly on our oXygen user mailing list. You can find that on our website. How much of this functionality will be available in the web author? The web author supports rendering of video and audio. but it misses actions to that insert multimedia action. But we plan to add these actions also in the web author. What happens if I have a map used for both WebHelp and PDF and use these features? How does the PDF transformation scenario handle them? I think for video, we'll push an image basically from the video.
If I remember well, we create some links in the output, in the PDF output
You can try to publish to PDF.
right now.
Maybe. Yeah. Yes.
Okay, let's do it.
Try it.
Let's do it. Okay, so I need the space sample. Okay, and we don't want help, web help. We want PDF. Where is PDF here? Okay. I know I tried this, and if I remember well, we will get some links, but let's see the final result. Okay. Neil Armstrong. Okay, so I think it seems like I was right. We get links here for the MP3 and for the MP4, and we get the another link for the YouTube video. Oh, and this is the racket.
Okay.
So this is the answer.
So another a comment. Happy to see the new hotspot functionality. How about support for SVG image maps? So can an SVG be the base for an image map? So if you have an SVG image, can you have an image map over the SVG file?
That's a good question.
Let's try
it again. Okay, that's the best answer. Okay. So let me insert an image. Images. Oh, this is not SVG. Okay, I will take the rocket and insert it as an image instead of multimedia object. Insert image. Okay, so this is an SVG now. We can invoke the image map editor, and it seems like we can create links. It doesn't matter where we link to. Okay, and
you publish to PDF now.
Oh,
you change the scenario to PDF.
Thank you, George. I forgot about it.
It looks like the image map editor already supports SVG image maps.
Yes.
In the image maps, is the description field from the image map editor the hover? Yes, the hover over text. Yes. So what you write in the description will be what the user will see when they hover over that hotspot. You need to configure the transformation scenario and select the WebHelp transformation, right?
Yes, I've done that.
So the answer to the last question was yes. If you that description will be the tooltip on the hotspot.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Okay, so maybe I should continue.
Yeah, sure.
I'll make myself a presenter. So thank you, Sorin, for this interesting presentation, going through all these points, and I was quite impressed with the ability to edit basically an XML document by clicking on a Google map. That's quite interesting. So as I mentioned, we already have a previous webinar this year available, recorded on our website on the events page. And we plan a following webinar in a couple of weeks focused on DITA, a technical writer's perspective on using DITA. It's actually our technical documentation writer, which will present his experience on moving from unstructured content to DITA and how he uses oXygen and DITA. So there will be quite interesting perspective on from a person that uses oXygen and DITA every day to write a user guide. You can meet us also in person at upcoming conferences, DITA North America in San Diego in April. Then we'll be in Washington DC area, and we have an oXygen users meetup, and then we'll be at the SDC Summit conference. Actually, if you go on our website, so company events, you can find here all the upcoming events. So the link to register for the next webinar, and then information about the conferences we go to, what sessions we present, information about the meetup, which is hosted by Mulberry Technologies in the Washington DC area. So you can also register here, SDC Summit, and also other conferences, LavaCon, XML Summer School, TC World. We organize again the DITA OT Day this year, which is a free event dedicated to the DITA Open Toolkit project. So a lot of activity, and we hope you can join us at one or more of the following events. So thank you, Sorin, again. Thank you, Alex, for your support also in the background. And thank you all for attending, and we look forward to meet you again. Thank you.